News. I dislike reading Inman News, because Inman News is the real estate news reporter, but it's like a soap opera. They're always trying to pit one company against the other, and this CEO said that. That's stuff that takes your mind off the game. What technology are you going to use? Look, at the end of the day, if you don't have a relationship with anybody, your technology is not going to matter. You're going to have a big old CRM with no one in it. All right? So it's important that we be talking to people, and with confidence and knowing the market trends. When I tell everybody to call people that you know and just say hi, eventually if you keep doing that, they're going to ask you what's going on for you. I've said this over and over and over again. Just call people and say hi. We have a script called the Ford script. Use it or don't use it, but just call people and say hi. If you do that enough, they're going to say, hey, what's going on with you? Oh my gosh, I'm loving my real estate career. I'm healthy, I'm happy. You know, and they'll go, okay, tell me what's, say, are you familiar with what's going on in real estate? You can say that to them. Do you know what's going on in real estate in your neighborhood? Well, hopefully before you ask that, you know what neighborhood they live in, or at least you're ready to answer any question as it relates to that. Because that will set you apart from everybody else. Market trends, again, are vital for you to know, and that's why I asked about it, because the micro trends are what you're going to have to keep track of. That little trend that just last week showed me Fremont had 38 homes for sale and had 50 pending. Today there's 46 or 47 for sale and only 44 pending. That's a trend. In 1 week, the number of actives went up and the number of pendings dropped. Why? Well, because probably around the first of the year, most of those pendings closed, right, and went away, and now we're starting to see those. So please pay attention. And then if you don't know what it means, then ask me. That's what I'm here for. Say, Rick, I saw this number, what does that mean, or why is this happening? And that lady right there with the glasses on, if it has to do with the bond market or lending, call her. Let her sprinkle her wisdom on you, because I don't like talking about that. When people do, they say, you know what, I have enough trouble being an amazing realtor. I can't answer your lending questions.
Well, something you can do is post in your Instagram story, just a one sheet of market trends. And all of your followers see it, so all your friends and everything see it. I got a lead a few weeks ago, of a girl I do CrossFit with, and she sees all my Instagram stories about real estate. She's like, hey, I see all your stuff, we want to buy in 2020.
Nice.
So it's sometimes when people are too scared to call everyone, just constantly reminding people in very just more educational ways.
Yeah.
It's a way to touch base with them without feeling like you're intruding.
Good.
Or whatever you feel. So.
We got to do that.
I did that.
She did that. Yeah, we did that.
Good.
She did that.
Good.
Somebody else did it for us. Okay, so remember this part, right? Today the guy said, I don't know, you seem to be getting better leads. I'm like, hello, 39 and a half years of hell. I'm getting better leads, yes. But I said, you have to take personal responsibility for your time, for where your time's going and where you're spending time doing things that you know. Are they uncomfortable to do? Yes, and if you don't do them, you're not going to get business. And that doesn't matter whether you're on someone's team or working alone. At the end of the day, the drip can dry up if we're not all working towards meeting and talking to more people and inviting more people to look at what we do and how we do it. All right? We're constantly brainstorming. Jennifer is just this amazing marketing mind. Today we were talking just for 3 or 4 minutes about the effect of just a few little spreading the word ways that she does things, and all of a sudden, like Tiffany, the $1.8 million half burnt down house on 6.8 acres, stuff like that. I shared it with her, she shared it with you, who knows where that'll go, right? But that's the beauty of keeping our mouths open, talking about what's applicable and what's not. The two things, buyer disposition and buyer urgency. It's your job to determine a buyer's disposition and a buyer's urgency right when you meet with them. I like to ask 1 to 10 questions. On a scale of 1 to 10, if you found the perfect house today, perfect for you in price, condition, location, everything, with 10 being you buy it today and 1 being buy it next year, where would you be on that scale? And that's a really good question, because people say they're serious about buying, but if this was the house, magically it appeared in front of you, are you really buying it, or is there some delays still that have to happen? That's a good way to find out their disposition, their urgency, and what is their disposition. Are they excited to buy? Is someone else telling them to buy? Are they pre-approved? One of the first buyer trainers I ever went to in the late 80s, early 90s used to say, a buyer will walk the buyer walk. If they're not walking the buyer walk, they're not a buyer. And we go, what's the buyer walk? And he goes, they meet with you, they meet with a lender, they get a pre-approval letter, and they do the walk. They're walking towards the system. They come to you with a checkbook in hand when they're going out to look at homes because they know they're going to write an initial deposit check, right? Things like that. So it's important though. What I noticed, and I'll give you this as an example, today when we write an offer, what is the approximate amount of initial deposit that we want from the client?
3%.
Say it out loud.
3%.
3% of the offer price, right? So if it's $1 million, we want to ask them for a check for 30 grand, right? So let's go back to when I was brand new, when the average sale price was about 100 grand, right? We were supposed to try to get 1,000. No, back then we were trying to get 1,000 out of them, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know what was my issue, but I'd go, yeah, I just write the check for $200. It's okay. Like, because I didn't want to tell them that they had to write a check for $1,000, right? And my uncle about ripped my head off a couple of times, right? Said, what, $200? People can walk away from this, $200. It's not enough to keep them. But back then, no one would walk away from $1,000, right? Now I'm very bold. Like, I'm super bold. I go, we're writing an offer for $1 million. I need a check for 30 grand. 30 grand? Yep. 3% of the purchase price. Pretty darn normal. It tells the other agent and the sellers that we're serious about our offer, right? Remember, there's no risk to your 30 grand as long as we follow the contract and we back out on time or we purchase on time. So those kinds of things, little things like that, you've got to be prepared and confident enough to do. Okay? So as you think about that, you know, when you're...
So is 3% just what you want? I mean, because I thought it's 1%.
No, it's not. Well, it's not what you or I or your clients want. It's what we need to do to convince the seller and the buyer's agents to win the offer. But the average, according to what I've heard from title companies, is actually between 2 and 3% that they're getting.
Did you say it was illegal for more than 3?
Yeah, 3, well,
Well,
liquid
no.
damages, they can only keep 3%.
Yeah.
That's for
If the liquidated damages clause and
It's
there's
up to
something happens, they
3%.
would only be able to leave. They would only be able to keep 3%. Robert's absolutely right. But you sometimes get those. I mean, we had a land deal that was 3.1 million, and the buyer wanted to put. It wasn't our buyer, but he wanted to put $200,000 up as a deposit because he really wanted us to know that he really wanted the property, right? So that was, what is that? That's 7%. I mean, it was a lot. So
It's
okay.
just really back to knowing your market, knowing the offer that's being offered for the house and what you need to do to get that offer accepted.
When I do listings in Tracy, Modesto, Stockton area, it's so funny, I hardly ever get 3%. It's hard to get 2% out
Well,
there.
even in like Antioch and Pittsburgh, like with the CalHEFA programs,
Yeah.
it's really.
Well, you don't want the deposit to be more than their total down
Well,
payment.
they can't offer more than
Yeah.
much, you know.
Yeah.
So I always say like at least 2 to 3 grand
Yeah.
if they can.
Yeah, like the deal Marissa's writing, they happen to have 80 grand in the bank, but if they didn't, right? If they didn't, they'd have to, we'd have to say, because they know it's contingent on the sale of a property, so the other agent has to know, well, the rest of the cash must be in the property, right? So, yeah. Good question,
I know
Sonia.
we always did at minimum 1%. I mean,
Okay.
it can't be less than 1%.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying, you know, to win the offer, of course you want to put
Right. But
more.
just remember, there's...
I got accepted for less than 1% because my
Me too.
yeah. So it just all depends on
market
what
depends,
what
yeah,
the
definitely.
situation
Yeah.
is and what the buyer's needs are and what the sellers. Because you're working with sellers that's been on the market for 150 days and this is the only buyer that's making the offer and only have less than a 1% for the
Initial deposit.
but then they have the down payment to cover it and they have proof of fund of the down payment. That's what really matters, the proof
Yeah.
of funds. It's just
And there's no law, by the way. This is
Yeah.
not something that's based on any law. It's just based on norms, basically.
I had a client that wanted to put an offer in with no deposit.
no
Wow.
down,
No down.
no earnest money
No earnest
deposit.
money
Yeah.
deposit.
Wow.
They don't understand
No,
the
that's
process.
no,
Yeah,
that they
and she-
didn't
it's just-
want, but then they
Okay.
couldn't have that earnest money deposit until the next
Next
week and
paycheck.
offers are being
Yeah.
looked at. So you just, and then so I told him just call the agent, have the
Yeah.
conversation, and just write on the contract instead of the 3 days for the deposit to show up,
10
it'll
days.
show up on that day when she get her paycheck.
Yeah.
It's just being transparent with the agent.
That's
Having the
pretty cool, yeah.
relationship with the agent is key. Like just be nice to the listing
Yeah.
agent and you know, win them over.
Yeah, I almost hate to say this in front of Gina and Denise, but the listing agent on the one Marissa is writing on, I used to date her, and so
Add her
When-
to the list.
when
Yeah,
Marissa
right?
when Marissa called and said, because Marissa, whenever she's writing off, she calls me and says, "Do you know the agent?" right away. Like that's her stock answer. And I said, "Yeah, I know her pretty well." And so she's like, "Okay, then you send the offer." I go, "No, I'll talk to her. Don't worry." So I talked to Deanna, and she said, "You know her, our Mario." And she said, "Rick, it's you. Yes, the seller would be open to a contingent offer because I know you'll have your ducks in a row." And she goes, "How long before the market's on the property?" The property's on the market. I said, "If we get accepted, we'll go on the market Friday." Right? And I can only say that because it's only a 2-year-old place and it's just the two of them and they live immaculately all the time and you know, those kinds of things. But yeah, your relationships count. And that's one of the things I was going to last, is that when you're working with buyers, it is very important that you know how to appropriately respect the seller and the other agent. Okay? And I'm only saying those words because we're on film. So, there's a very pleasant way. So ask around, do you know the agent? So if you call me and I say, do I know the agent? I do. I'll say, make sure you say nice things. Oh, I talked to my business partner, Rick Geha, and he said so many amazing things, nice things about you, right? Or if you can never fake that, by the way. So you can't say, I met someone in my office who knew you, and they go, who is that? You go, I don't remember their name. They're in your office and you don't remember names. So in other words, don't say nice things that you heard nice things about people unless you really have, because they can corner you on that. But find something to say nice about them. Maybe you Google them. Maybe you look on their Facebook page. Or, hey, I saw on your Facebook page, you're stalking my Facebook page. Yeah, I want to be able to talk to you about something that's interesting to you. Or hey, Tom, it's Rick at eXp Realty is wondering what would be the best for your seller. I get it about price and terms. I just want to know, do they need rent back? Okay, so if you look at it, do they need rent back or what, so that you can write a very competitive offer. If you're sending your clients to an open house and you won't be with them, make sure you train them. Give them business cards of yours and say, take these with you and remember to tell the agent that you're working with Rick Geha and he couldn't be here today. Like, tell them to say that. And believe me, they'll listen to you, right? And if they think they're going to be interested, a lot of times they already know they're going to it because they really like the house, then just be extra polite and make yourself well known to the agent holding it open, who in a lot of cases is not the listing agent.
Right.
Okay? So, yeah, so those are important things. It's training the buyers to understand, telling them what they can do. Now, not today, but over the next several weeks, I'm going to talk about learning a great buyer consultation and a great seller consultation. Even if you are not going to be the one doing listings, and even if you are, you really need to start learning about the confidence of speaking to a seller about selling and a buyer about buying. There should, you said it the other day, you said, oh, I was in the back doing a buyer consultation when somebody came in or something. It's important that you get that you all need to have something that you know to say every time you're going to work with a buyer. And the only thing that alters it is that buyer's situation, but otherwise you're confident, you know what to say, you know how to say it. In other words, every time I get a buyer, one of the main questions I ask them is, by the way, are you considering or have you considered new homes, brand new homes? Most of the time they say no. Because why? They know the lots are tiny, it's, you know, it's more expensive.
Melrose sometimes.
What's that?
Melrose tax.
Right, all kinds of stuff. If they say yes, I go, great. Here's one thing I want to tell you right up front. Do not enter any brand new home development without me. It will be the worst thing for you. And believe me, it won't make any difference to me. It will be not good for you. And they'll say, why? And I'll say because if you don't go in with me or one of my team on your first visit, I can no longer legally represent you if I'm not with you on that first visit. Right? And that's the truth. It's now their client. They've got them signed up without you, it's their client. So it's important that you say that. And people just don't want to say it. I go, why not? Why do you want them walking into one, right? I have so many clients I told that, they'd say, okay, we're not really ready to buy for a year and a half. I've had clients call me up and say, on an $800,000 house where there was going to be 3%, call me up and say, Rick, will you give us 1% because I'm about to ready to go to a brand new development. I'll go, hell yeah, let's go. right? I'm still gonna get 16 grand for walking them in, and then really you do nothing. You essentially get a referral fee. You're not writing the contract, you're not doing any of that, so. The other thing is there's nothing wrong with taking inspectors and advising your clients to get inspections on brand new homes. There's nothing wrong with that at all. A lot of people think you can't. You can. They can't stop you. They can't stop the client from investigating. So, all right? Okay, so that's what I had for today. This was a lot of stuff, I know, but I really wanted to get it out, and I'm glad we got it on film because it's too much to take notes on. Does anybody have any questions, thoughts, comments, ahas, suggestions?
On the new houses, get to know those agents that are in the areas that you're working. They will treat you
Yes.
so much differently.
Yes, I saw, when I was looking at, when I was looking up the comps for the people on Persimmon Common, they're still selling there. The new developers are, so it was Shea Home, so, yeah, and I think they're giving a lot of their leftover inventory to an Intero agent, so yes,
Yeah,
they're gonna give them to
They
somebody.
will refer you.
Yeah.
Because 10% of brand new homes will resell in the first year.
Oh,
People don't know that.
Rick didn't know that.
Well, in the areas that I work.
Yeah, good. Okay, well, thank you for your time and attention, ladies and gentlemen.
Appreciate you.
Okay.
Yes.
Uh,
Thank you.